There's something people don't talk about enough: we celebrate independence. Strength. Self-made success. We admire the idea of standing alone, but the truth is some things in this life were never meant to be done alone, and loving someone, truly loving them, is one of those things. When I say, I can't do this without you, I'm not speaking from weakness, I'm speaking from awareness. Because love isn't about needing someone to survive. It's about recognizing that life is deeper, fuller, and more meaningful when you walk beside someone who understands your silence. There's a difference between dependence and devotion. Dependence says, I'm nothing without you. Devotion says, I'm strong on my own, but I choose to build with you. And I choose you, not because I can't breathe without you, but because breathing next to you feels like peace. We don't talk enough about how hard real love is. It's not candlelight and slow music every night. It's not grand speeches or dramatic rescues. Sometimes it's exhaustion. Sometimes it's misunderstanding. Sometimes it's sitting in a room together, both hurt, both quiet, and deciding not to walk away. That's love. It's staying when leaving would be easier. It's listening when your pride wants to speak. It's holding someone gently when the world has been rough with them. And I've learned something over time. Strength isn't walking away from everything that hurts. Strength is learning how to stay without losing yourself. I can't do this without you. Not because I'm incapable, but because the version of me I'm becoming is better when you're beside me. Love is a decision made quietly, long before it is ever spoken out loud, and long after the butterflies settle into something steadier and more honest. People often mistake love for intensity, for the rush, the spark, the cinematic moment where two souls collide and the world rearranges itself around them. But the truth is much calmer than that. Love, real love, is not loud. It does not demand attention. It does not try to prove itself every 5 minutes. It sits beside you in silence and stays. Commitment is the part nobody claps for. It is waking up on the days when you are tired of misunderstanding each other and choosing to speak gently anyway. It is swallowing the easy sarcasm and replacing it with patience. It is recognizing that your partner is not your enemy even when the argument makes it feel that way. Commitment is not about perfection, it is about endurance with kindness. When I say, I can't do this without you, I don't mean I am incomplete alone. I mean I understand that love is not a solo performance. It is a partnership built brick by brick, apology by apology, forgiveness by forgiveness. There are seasons in a relationship when everything flows naturally, laughter is easy, affection is effortless, and the future feels bright and certain. And then there are seasons where doubt creeps in quietly, where exhaustion blurs your perspective, where life outside the relationship pressures what exists inside it. Those are the moments that define commitment. Anyone can stay when it's easy. Staying when it's difficult requires character. It requires emotional maturity. It requires humility, the kind that allows you to say, I was wrong, without feeling smaller. The kind that allows you to admit fear without feeling weak. Love is not about finding someone who never challenges you. It is about finding someone who challenges you in ways that make you better, not bitter. And that kind of love demands responsibility. It asks you to look at your own wounds instead of blaming your partner for triggering them. It asks you to grow up in the places where you've been avoiding growth. It asks you to communicate even when silence would be more comfortable. Commitment is not a prison, it is a promise. And promises are sacred not because they are easy to keep, but because they are meaningful when they are hard to keep. There is a quiet strength in choosing one person again and again, especially in a world that constantly offers distractions disguised as better options. Real love is not about constantly wondering if something better is out there. It is about building something better right where you are. It is about investing instead of browsing. It is about depth instead of variety. And depth takes time, it takes patience. It takes two people willing to be seen fully, not just the polished parts, but the insecure parts, the messy parts, the imperfect parts. Commitment means you do not run when you discover those imperfections. It means you lean closer and say, we can work through this. It does not mean tolerating disrespect or enduring harm. Love should never cost your dignity, but it does mean understanding that growth is uncomfortable. There will be days when you do not feel understood. Days when you question whether you are speaking the same emotional language. In those moments, commitment is choosing to learn each other instead of labeling each other. It is asking, help me understand you, instead of declaring, you always do this. The difference is subtle, but it changes everything. Love built on ego will collapse under pressure. Love built on humility can survive storms. I have learned that saying, I need you, is not weakness when it is said from a place of strength. It is honesty. It is recognizing that partnership requires vulnerability, and vulnerability is not about dramatic confessions, it is about everyday transparency. It is saying, that hurt me, before resentment has a chance to build walls. It is admitting, I'm scared of losing you, without turning that fear into control. Commitment means protecting the relationship not just from external threats but from internal pride. Pride is quiet, but it is destructive. It convinces you that apologizing makes you small. It convinces you that being right is more important than being connected. But love teaches you something deeper. Sometimes you can win the argument and lose the person, and no victory is worth that cost. True commitment shifts the goal from winning to understanding. It shifts the focus from me versus you to versus the problem. That mindset changes how you fight. It changes how you listen. It changes how you forgive. And forgiveness is not pretending something did not hurt. It is choosing not to weaponize the hurt later. It is releasing the desire to punish and replacing it with the desire to heal. Healing together is one of the most intimate forms of love. It is messy and imperfect, but it is real. There is something powerful about two people acknowledging their flaws and still choosing to stay. Not because they are afraid of being alone, but because they recognize the value of what they are building. Commitment also means consistency. Grand gestures are beautiful, but consistency is what sustains love. It is checking in emotionally. It is showing up on time. It is keeping your word. It is remembering the small details that matter to your partner. These small acts may not look dramatic, but they create safety, and safety is the foundation of lasting love. When someone feels safe with you, they open up. They trust you with their fears, their dreams, their insecurities, and that trust is not something to take lightly. It is earned slowly and lost quickly. Commitment means guarding that trust fiercely. It means being loyal not only in action but in intention. Loyalty is not just about physical faithfulness, it is about emotional integrity. It is about not entertaining connections that would weaken the one you have chosen. It is about speaking highly of your partner even when they are not present. It is about protecting their dignity the same way you protect your own. When you truly understand commitment, you stop looking for escape routes. You stop keeping one foot out the door. You plant both feet firmly and say, "I'm here." That presence alone changes the dynamic of a relationship. It creates stability. It creates reassurance. It creates room for both people to grow without fear of abandonment at the first sign of struggle. Growth is essential because love that does not evolve eventually dissolves. You are not the same person you were 5 years ago. Your partner is not the same either. Commitment means rediscovering each other as you change. It means falling in love with new versions of the same soul. It means being curious instead of complacent. Asking new questions. Supporting new ambitions. It is easy to love someone's potential at the beginning. It is harder and more meaningful to love them through their process. Through setbacks, through disappointments, through days when they doubt themselves. Saying, "I can't do this without you," in those moments is not about dependency, it is about solidarity. It is about reminding each other that you are a team, and teams do not abandon each other mid-game. They adjust strategies. They communicate. They encourage. They endure. Commitment requires emotional discipline. It requires you to manage your reactions, to pause before you say something irreversible, to choose tone carefully. Words can build or destroy. In love they should build. Even during conflict, there is a way to speak that preserves respect. Respect is non-negotiable. Without respect, love becomes unstable. With respect, even disagreement can be productive. You can disagree without degrading. You can express frustration without attacking character. That balance is a sign of maturity, and maturity is one of the most attractive qualities in a partner. Not perfection, maturity. The willingness to grow. The willingness to listen. The willingness to accept responsibility. Love is not about finding someone flawless. It is about finding someone accountable. Someone who says, "I will work on that," instead of, "That's just how I am." Commitment thrives where accountability lives. And over time, something beautiful happens. The relationship becomes a refuge instead of a battlefield. It becomes the place you exhale. The place you feel understood. The place you return to after facing the world. That kind of love is not accidental. It is constructed carefully through daily choices, through small sacrifices, through intentional kindness. It is built when both people understand that love is not sustained by passion alone, but by partnership, by shared values, by mutual respect, by consistent efforts. There will be moments when one person is stronger than the other, moments when one carries more weight. Commitment means trusting that balance will shift when needed, that support will be mutual over time, that you are not alone in the struggle. When I say, "I can't do this without you," what I really mean is this: I do not want to build a life that does not include you. I do not want to celebrate victories without your hand in mine. I do not want to navigate storms without your presence beside me. Not because I lack strength, but because love shared is strength multiplied. The truth about love and commitment is simple, but not easy. It is choosing each other every single day, especially on the days when it would be easier not to. And in that choice, repeated consistently, humbly and sincerely, love transforms from a feeling into a foundation. Healing in a relationship is neither linear nor simple. It doesn't happen in dramatic breakthroughs or sweeping epiphanies. Healing happens quietly, often unnoticed, in the small moments when you choose patience over anger, understanding over judgment, and connection over pride. Every human being carries wounds, sometimes hidden, sometimes obvious, sometimes freshly open, and sometimes scarred over from old experiences. And when two people come together, those wounds meet, sometimes gently, sometimes clumsily, sometimes painfully. But the meeting of those wounds is unavoidable if you want intimacy to exist. A healthy relationship does not ignore pain or pretend it isn't there. It acknowledges it, names it, and works with it. Forgiveness is part of that process. Forgiveness is not forgetting. Forgiveness is not pretending the hurt never happened. It is, instead, a deliberate choice to release the hold that past pain has over your present love. It is the conscious decision to allow love to be stronger than resentment. Forgiveness requires courage. It asks you to face the parts of your partner and yourself that cause damage and to look beyond them to see the person who is trying, the person who is imperfect but worthy of love. Healing also requires honesty, not the brutal honesty that wounds, but the reflective honesty that illuminates the heart. It is the willingness to say, "This hurt me," without shame or accusation. It is the willingness to admit, "I wasn't proud of my reaction," without defensiveness. Healing is a dialogue, not a monologue. It is active, not passive. It requires listening to understand, not listening to respond. And most importantly, healing happens only when both people are willing to engage, not only in their own growth, but in each other's. Choosing someone daily is the practical expression of healing and forgiveness. Love is not a static, once and done agreement. It is an ongoing commitment. Every morning, every evening, every moment when life pressures or distracts you, choosing someone means returning to them in your mind and in your actions. It is making them a priority when the world pulls you in other directions. It is showing patience when irritation rises, empathy when misunderstanding emerges, and support when challenges overwhelm. Choosing someone is often quiet. It doesn't always come with grand declarations. Sometimes it is as simple as staying present when you could walk away, listening when you could tune out, or holding a hand when silence feels heavier than conversation. But those small choices accumulate. They build trust, they build intimacy. They build the knowledge that even when life is difficult, the relationship is a safe harbor, a place where vulnerability is met with acceptance, not judgment. Forgiveness and choosing each other are intertwined. You cannot truly forgive someone if you have no intention of staying. And you cannot consistently choose someone if you are carrying unaddressed resentment. Healing and forgiveness allow the love between two people to breathe, to expand beyond past mistakes, and to deepen in ways that feel sacred and sustaining. Healing also requires humility. It is humbling to admit when you have hurt someone. It is humbling to recognize that your actions, however unintended, have consequences on someone you care about. It is humbling to accept that you do not have all the answers, and that sometimes the path to repair is guided more by listening than by talking. Yet it is in humility that relationships transform. Pride left unchecked poisons love. Humility nurtures it. Over time, choosing someone daily becomes a rhythm, a quiet heartbeat that sustains intimacy. It is in the everyday gestures, the check-ins, the shared laughter, the reassurance, the forgiveness that love survives storms and emerges stronger. Love that has been tested, wounded, healed, and chosen again is resilient. It carries depth that cannot be replicated by novelty or passion alone. It carries wisdom, patience, and the understanding that two imperfect humans can create something extraordinary together if they are willing to do the inner work. Choosing someone daily is not always glamorous. Sometimes it is exhausting, sometimes it is inconvenient, sometimes it requires setting aside pride, fear, and frustration. But those moments, small and quiet though they may be, define the longevity and strength of a relationship. And in the process of choosing each other daily, of forgiving and healing repeatedly, two people learn the most profound truth about love, that it is not a feeling that happens to you, but a practice that you cultivate together. And when that practice becomes consistent, when healing is honored and forgiveness is extended, love becomes not only a sanctuary but a force that enables growth, resilience, and joy beyond what either person could have achieved alone. Loyalty is the quiet foundation upon which all enduring love is built. It is often mistaken for mere faithfulness or the absence of betrayal, but true loyalty is far deeper than that. Loyalty is a daily commitment to honor the trust your partner places in you, to defend the relationship not only from outside threats, but from the subtle erosions that come from neglect, distraction, or self-interest. Loyalty is choosing to stand with someone when circumstances make it inconvenient, when the world tempts you with easier options, and when the relationship challenges you to grow in ways you had not anticipated. It is the understanding that love is not transactional. It is a partnership where each person's well-being and dignity matter as much as your own. Respect is inseparable from loyalty. You cannot be loyal to someone you do not respect, nor can respect survive without loyalty. Respect manifests in countless quiet ways: listening without judgment, honoring boundaries, speaking kindly even when frustrated, and never undermining your partner's sense of self. It is in these small daily acts that love proves itself. Emotional maturity underpins both loyalty and respect. Without it, commitment falters, words lose meaning, and wounds deepen instead of healing. Emotional maturity is the capacity to recognize your own triggers without projecting them onto your partner. It is the ability to sit with discomfort without turning it into blame. It is the skill of holding space for your partner's emotions, even when they contradict your own, and responding with empathy instead of defensiveness. Mature love does not require constant validation. It thrives in understanding, patience, and the willingness to endure hardship together. In real relationships, conflict is inevitable, but emotional maturity teaches that conflict is not a threat but an opportunity to deepen understanding. It is the difference between arguing to win and discussing to connect. It is knowing when to speak and when to listen, when to act and when to pause, and when to compromise without sacrificing core values. Loyalty, respect, and emotional maturity are not innate. They are cultivated through self-awareness, reflection, and practice. They demand that you look inward, take responsibility for your actions, and commit to growth alongside your partner. This is the work that transforms love from a fleeting feeling into a sustaining force. Choosing to be loyal does not mean blindly enduring hurt or ignoring betrayal. It means intentionally protecting the bond you share, investing in communication, and aligning your actions with your words. Choosing respect does not mean passivity. It means valuing your partner as an equal, recognizing their autonomy, and treating their dreams, fears, and desires with care. Choosing emotional maturity does not come naturally to most. It requires introspection, honesty, and the humility to admit mistakes and learn from them. But when all three converge, love reaches a state of profound depth. It becomes resilient to life's challenges, forgiving of human imperfection, and capable of sustaining joy and connection even through difficult seasons. Loyalty fosters trust, respect nurtures safety, and emotional maturity enables intimacy. Together, they create a relationship that can endure trials, celebrate victories, and grow richer over time. And in this space, the quiet phrase, "I can't do this without you," transforms into a powerful truth, not a plea born of fear, but a declaration rooted in understanding, devotion, and the unshakable knowledge that life shared with someone worthy is far more meaningful than life lived alone. Through loyalty, respect, and emotional maturity, love becomes less about fleeting emotion and more about the conscious, daily choice to build a life with another human being in honesty, integrity, and care. It is the invisible scaffolding that supports every gesture of tenderness, every act of patience, and every moment of forgiveness. It is the deep, abiding work that gives love its lasting strength, and it is what allows two people to navigate the inevitable storms of life with grace, humility, and an unspoken promise to endure together. True love in its most authentic form is never accidental. It is earned in quiet choices, disciplined in respect, and deepened by emotional maturity. And when these qualities flourish, the connection between two people becomes unshakable, capable of weathering misunderstanding, external pressures, and even heartbreak, while continually reaffirming that love at its core is about loyalty, care, and the conscious, heartfelt decision to be present for one another every day.